Hello everyone and welcome back to another ranking video. It's Jay here and today we're going to be ranking every single one of Minecraft's updates from 1.0 to 1.21 today. Just remember, this is my opinion only. You could have different opinions, but I have my opinion and this is my opinion. Comment down below what you think the best update is. And taking dead last spot goes to 1.10. In my opinion, this is definitely the worst update out of all of them, with these being the changes. First, we get the fossil, which is a really rare structure, which doesn't even give you much, and isn't really useful. The only thing it can really give you is some deep slate diamonds occasionally, and that's really it. And they also added a few new mobs into this very update. They added this stray here, which it can shoot slowness at you. We all know him from the snowy biome, just making that snow biome a bit more unique. It also has the husk here that spawns in the sand biome, is immune to the sun unlike other zombies, and is made in the sandy biomes. A really classic mob from the sand biome, but just not the best in all mobs. And also the panda, fun fact, the panda was made because Jeb's wife liked them. Yes, that is why they are made into 1.10. And in my opinion, polar bears are okay, just not the best addition to the game. They also added a few other stuff, such as magma blocks. They also added nether warts, which is pretty good for brewing, and red nether bricks, along with some extra commands to help us in our journey. And that takes 22nd spot. Taking close 21st spot is 1.6. The reason they are this low is because they did not begin in the greatest of state. This is the horse update, which added the horse, donkey, and mule who are inside this cage. Here's the mule, then we have the donkey, then we have the the horse, and then the donkey. And these are now really iconic into Minecraft, but then they were very slow and not very useful, which is why they didn't release in the greatest estate. They also added leads, which are pretty good to latch onto animals and take them where you would like. Pretty good. They also added the coal block, not that useful, just can smell a bit better. Some carpet, good for decoration, new commands, resource packs, and a new launcher, which makes this not a great update and makes this 21st spot. And taking 20th spot goes to 1.12, the color update, which was considered the downfall of Minecraft in its lowest state. It added a bunch of concrete, which now is okay, because concrete is not great for builds just because of its texture being a bit off, and is okay. As we go on to the crafting system, it helps so much. You're able to drag things in the crafting table and makes crafting that a bit easier, and also got some crafting tips, which is pretty useful. We got colored beds, which are really nice. You don't have to have the plain old reds all the time. And also they added parrots and the illusioner, which has not released into survival yet, but it's not a great update, but I still think it's better than 1.10 and 1.6. That's why it's 20th spot. And next up in number 19 is the 1.15 update, also known as the Bees update, which is one of the newer ones and coming off two greatly loved chapters of updates. We got one that's not great here. As you can see, they pretty much added bees and things to do with bees. As you can see, the bees flying off there. That is spawned just then. Off into his new thing, where he's probably trying to find one of these, the beehive. That is where this guy goes in and produces this, the honey. This honey block is actually one little pixel too small, so you are able to do something like this. You can break a block, as you see right here, and go across it, which is a pretty nice detail and pretty good for parkour maps and stuff like that. And then we have the beehive, which you can make and put bees in and to determine basically when they go out and go back in, which is a really interesting part about this bee update. And I think overall it's not great, but it's okay. Here we have number 18, 1.5, the Redstone update, a controversial one. And it's very often claimed as only Redstone geniuses would want this. But I think it's okay. We have the Redstone here and we have the Redstone block, two really good contraptions that we can use. The Redstone torch, of course, and also we have the repeaters and the comparators here. I think it's good for lots of things, and including lanterns here, and we also have the mine carts and stuff. I think this is a good chapter based on traps, but there's other stuff like this, like mine carts, are really good. And there's also achievements here that were also added, as you can see, into this update, which was a nice detail and something to do while you're, of course, well, just needing to do things. I think it's very good to do traps and stuff and set up cool bases, but it can also be good for other reasons. What do you think? Here we have 17th spot, which is 1.0, a pretty controversial update, coming off a really good update, and it's gone to this, which they added spawn eggs, which is probably the best thing in this little update, which are pretty good, and creative builds and stuff like that, but just not great for survival, the overall more popular game mode out of everyone. They also added a lot of new biomes, which I think is a very, very good thing. As you can see, the river over there is actually added in this version, and is a really, really nice thing to have some more biomes. But overall, it's not great, but I do think it's better than the others on the list so far. Coming in 16th is 1.8, the last update where we had the spam click on the PvP, but this is the Bountiful update. An okay one, which added a few things. We added all blocks you see underground other than stone today, seen as useless little blocks, but they can be really nice for building and other stuff. And also they added all the prismarine blocks, which I found really, really good. Which also added the Ocean Monument, a nice little side mission when you're going for the Ender Dragon. A little easier than the Ender Dragon, but I still think deserves a boss spot. And this update is pretty good. And here we are in 15th spot, 1.2. A really good update, I think, which added quite a few things. First of all is the jungle trees and also the jungle biome. I reckon one of my favourite biomes. It's a shame you just don't see them often. They also added fire chargers, bottle of experience, which are pretty nice things to have in the game. They also added the ocelots, which I think personally are pretty nice and can scare off creepers, which are really useful. And my favourite thing that they added is the iron golem. Just made villages that much better. I think they were pretty much useless villages up until the iron golems, which basically made villages what they are today. And I think it's a really handy addition, which can get you free iron early on in the game, but also can make iron farms and stuff, which is the reason that this is not lower than it is. Here we have 14th spot, 1.11, a pretty controversial update, which didn't add very much. What it added, though, is some pretty nice things, like the Totem of Undying, which is one of the most popular and important things that you usually put in your offhand, and is a very useful thing to help you from dying. Another thing is the shulker box that you can put anything in and break it and just carry that thing around. A lot better than chests and my personal way of storing other things. Then we have the custom mobs that were in this update, which is the Vindicator, pretty strong and is a deadly foe if you're in the early game. And it can also drop some emeralds, which are pretty useful, especially if you have a raid farm, which they can be very handy. Then we also have the Evokers, which of course their main use is for the Totem of Undying that it will eventually drop. There it is, the Totem of Undying that it does drop. I think that's really, really important that it can drop the Totem of Undying. And it also and as I put the emerald in here, that it can spawn the Vex, which I think is probably the most annoying mob out of any update. So I'm happy they made it, but it could have been better, in my opinion. And final thing that they added is the mansion. Lots of people just sleep on the mansion, but I think the mansion is honestly really, really good addition to Minecraft, and I think it deserves its spot. It is 14th place. And here we have 13th spot in 1.4. Lots of people's personal favourite updates, also known as the Pretty Scary update, which has added a few fan favourite things, such as the anvil. I personally like using the anvil to add enchanted books to my swords and weapons, but I can also name things, as I'm going to name here the subscribe, which is what you should do. We also over here have the beacon, which can have different levels on it and power the beacon to lots of different effects. My personal favourites being the strength and regeneration. You also need to have different types of ores put in there to activate it, which I think is pretty neat. And over here we have the command block. Lots of people love this personally in creative. I do love the command block, but I think sometimes it has its moments where it's just a bit difficult to use and understand, which I think that's why not many people use it. But here is my personal favourite thing in this update. It's the Wither. The Wither is probably one of my favourite bosses other than the Warden, which we'll get to later, which is pretty hard to summon and even harder to beat. I think it's probably even harder to beat than the Ender Dragon. It is really powerful and has some really good abilities that I think is a really nice difference between the Ender Dragon and the Wither, which I think is really nice. 12th spot, we have 1.3, another really, really good update, which added one of the best additions, villager trading. So here we go through the stuff here, which is a few things. We have the adventure mode, which is really good for adventure maps, of course, which are one of the most popular things in the game to do. And I think that's really nice that they actually made a mode for maps. They also have the two of the most popular structures in the Desert Pyramid and Jungle Pyramid. Probably two of the most loved structures. And in my opinion, they are really, really good to come across. We also have the Emerald block, just a nice little addition, and the villager trading, which you are able to trade with villagers for the first time to get some sweet deals that are really, really good for your world. This is at the time that they did not have emerald trade, so you would just trade emeralds for some really nice deals, and it was the only way you could find some Woodland Explorer maps and other things like that, which I think is pretty neat, and that's why it's 12th. And in 11th, we have 1.17, just scraping outside top 10. It's the Caves and Cliffs Part 1 chapter, which lots of people have hate on, but I think it's pretty good. Adding this stuff, including Deep Slate, we have Dripstone, which are really nice for trapping and really nice for decorations too, which are a pretty nice addition. We have Copper, one of probably the worst ores, but it can make a few nice things, such as the Spyglass and other things with the Amethyst that is just over to my right, which I think is really, really cool that you have to have two from the same update to make something cool. This is also the Powdered Snow, which I think just makes snow biomes, just makes you think twice before jumping on snow, which I think is pretty cool and can sometimes be frustrating, but mostly pretty funny. And over here we have Amethyst, which I think, along with geodes, is a really interesting thing. It's really cool for decorations and lots of things. I know when I first found it, I used it for a bunch of builds, and I think it is one of my personal favourite blocks. It can be made to make spyglasses and a new type of skulk that we'll get to soon, but I think this update gets too much hate. In 10th spot, we have 1.20, the first in the top 10, an underrated update in my opinion, as we see what is in this update. First, we have the smithing templates, which I think is really nice, and it can make your armor so much more powerful and look so much cooler, where we don't just see everyone in the same old armor. And here we go. I'll quickly test this for you. I'll grab a diamond chest plate and grab a random smithing table. Let's just take the coastal armor trim and we plop it in here. Plop the armor trim, and since I have iron in my inventory, I'll put iron in the other slot. You can put any mineral you want, which I think is really nice to make this really unique chest plate. I think it looks pretty nice indeed. Really, really cool idea from Mojang to add this to the game. And I just think it makes your armor so unique. They also added my personal favorite wood, the cherry blossom wood, which is really, really nice. Pink wood, and it reminds me of Japan when I look at it. So cool, and I always love stumbling across one of the cherry blossom biomes. And as I was talking about, this is the Castellized Skulk, I think that's how you say it. Only really good for redstone, but kind of looks cool. I wish they did a bit more with it though, like a little amethyst jingle when it goes off. But here we have the sniffer. I believe this was the mob that we got in 1.20. I didn't really vote for it, I don't think, but I do like it as it came out. Pretty unique, and I think 10th spot is where it belongs. And in 9th spot, we have 1.9, probably the most controversial chapter on this list, being the change of combat. But we should first get to the least controversial part of this chapter, being the End City, probably the best place to get loot quickly for the endgame players. I personally love going to the end and just exploring these things. And of course, the Elytra is just the funnest thing to travel around in and is just amazing. So cool. And I think lots of people can agree with me there. But here's the controversial part. The change of combat. Of course, we got shields with this, which are really, really nice. But we cannot spam click anymore, which means no more of this and more of timed hits like this, which I think, personally for me, is okay. I didn't really like spam clicking. I thought there was no real skill to it, which is why I kind of like the new combat style. I know I'm that kind of weirdo, but I do kind of like it. Let's just have this example. This is spam clicking. This is a spam clicking, and I'll just throw the corpse away. And over here with these llamas, this is the new timed hits. Leave in the comments your opinion on if the combat was deserved to be changed. But for me, I think this definitely deserves to have at least 9th spot for 1.9. Coming in 8th spot is 1.7, also known as the update that changed Minecraft forever, which is in 7th. I'm sad that I had to put it here, but it has to go here. But the first thing that it added is so many new biomes, which honestly just makes Minecraft so much more fun to explore. It added things like the little beach areas, the mesas, the acacia biomes, which I think is really nice. With so many new biomes, it just makes the world so much better. Over here, we have the two new types of wood, the acacia wood and the dark oak wood. Two of my personal... One is actually my least favorite and one is my favorite, which I kind of like. And we also have the two flower types, all the flower types, I should say, that were added. I just put these two down, cornflowers, which I think was a really nice addition and really lightened Minecraft up, but it has to go here. Up next is 7th place, 1.18, which is Caves and Cliffs Part 2, which I really love, and lots of people will debate whether it's better than 1.7, and many will say recency biased, but I honestly think it just made Minecraft that bit more beautiful and just made it so fun to explore. First, it added the giant mountains and giant caves, which are the funnest things to explore. The mountains can go up to Y level 211, and the massive caves can go all the way down to negative 100 and something. So cool for an addition, and just made me love exploring caves. From the old trashy caves to probably the best caves that I have ever seen in any game. Just made it look so nice. But along with this, it just added a few little things, such as over here, the other side disc. One of my personal favorite discs. Not much to say about it. just kind of one of my favorite discs, and I have biased for that. But in my opinion, I think this is better than 1.7. Leave your opinion down below. But I think it definitely deserves 7th spot. 100%. And here in 6th is 1.21, the most recent update to date. I do think lots of you guys will say recency biased, but in my opinion, I think it's definitely better than most. The Trial Chambers is a clear example. A really fun place that you can grab some sweet loot that I think lots of people would respect. I find really fun just going through with friends and fighting all the mobs that are in there and getting some really nice loot. In these Trial Chambers, however, are these things called the Breeze, which are a really unique idea with the Breeze. I just wish they made them a little bit more tricky than just being a 2-shot with an iron sword. But I do think a really nice mob to be added, along with the mace, my personal favourite weapon, being wherever you jump off, if you hit their opponent, the higher you jump from, the more damage it does. And I think is a really, really nice idea, which of course it being one of the rarest items in the entire game, which I think honestly with some enchants can be so fun to use, and I think this chapter is just fun. And I like that. And coming in 5th place is the oldest update on this list, 1.0. And the amount of things it added is just incredible. First, it added brewing, one of the most popular things to do, because you can just get so many abilities. You can get swiftness, jump boost, strength, fire resistance, only to name a few. Along with this, it added, of course, the cauldron that you can add heaps of water into. But as you come along to here, we have the enchantment table, which is one of the most crucial things in the game. If you don't enchant things, I don't think you've properly completed the game. I think it's really nice to try and get maxed out enchantments on everything, and it's a really nice technical way, of course, having to use your experience for some reason, which I think is good to be able to actually use your experience to do something in the game, which I think is really nice. They also added hardcore, not on Bedrock Edition, but on Java Edition they added Minecraft Hardcore, which I think is a great challenge for those who have basically surpassed the basic, knows how to play the game and want to have a proper challenge for themselves. I think that's a really good idea. And we also have the final boss of bosses, the Ender Dragon, the most popular boss in the game. And anybody's goal is to beat the Ender Dragon. No matter who you are in any world, I reckon you would have to beat the Ender Dragon at least once. It's just iconic, and I think this update was amazing. In 4th spot, we have 1.14, and it's the Village and Pillage update, which made Minecraft villages so good. They added the first thing, they just made so many unique ideas and just made it so good. The first thing they added, of course, being raids, which I think is a really nice side quest, and just to get the hero of a village is just so good. Better villages is another thing you can do. It's just so amazing, the villages now. I cannot say it enough. It's just so cool. And also just so more stuff. The Pillager Outpost is more of the beginning of the game thing, but you can get Bad Omen there, and that's really it. If you don't want to get Bad Omen, there's no purpose. Then we also have the more village types, which is just they just made villages in more areas, which I think is just such a better idea. And I think that's why this should be 4th. And I think it was really close to 3rd, but I just think there's updates out there that are just that bit better than this one. In 3rd spot is 1.13, a fan favorite update that I think was the moment that made Minecraft better again. After the dark ages of 1.12, we went to a very wanted aquatic update, which just made Minecraft so nice. The oceans were actually changed, and I think it needed that. First, it added some coral, which I think coral was a really important thing. You can get dead coral that's on land too long, and normal, just basic coral, which I think looks really nice. Buried treasure, of course, being found through something we're going to see soon. Shipwrecks, and I think you can find some really nice stuff like a lot of iron and diamonds, which are some pretty nice things. Shipwrecks are another important thing in this game, and they are pretty nice, especially early game. You can get so much iron from them, a few diamonds, the buried treasure map, and also just a bit of golden lapis, which is a pretty solid start. More ocean biomes is also another thing they had, like the warm ocean, the coral reef, just to have a bit more variety. The bubble air is another thing they added, which I think is really nice for ocean ravines, which can just make you be able to explore the ocean just that bit longer without water breathing, which I think the aquatic update was necessary, and they did it perfectly. In second spot is 1.19. Many people would disagree with me here, but this is the update that actually made me excited. I just love this update and what it added, and I think most people should agree with me, even though they probably would put it a bit lower. First thing on this list, though, is the Ancient City, which is my favorite structure. It is so OP. You can find basically 4 notch apples per Ancient City, which I just find really overpowered. And you can just find so many cool things in this Ancient City, which I just think is amazing. You can also find the new mangrove roots, which is basically a tree, and I think are really nice that you actually made a kind of swamp area that's just a lot better. In my opinion, just really, really needed. Frog light is another thing that you can get from frogs eating magma cubes. Random, I know. But speaking of frogs, here are the frogs. There's 3 different variants depending on where they are born in. And they just are so cool, jumping around. But the coolest thing in this is basically another boss battle, the Warden. I thought Minecraft needed more bosses since 1.12. And they perfectly delivered with the Warden. The Warden is the scariest mob in my opinion, and actually terrifies me when I go in an area that can spawn one. And that's why I think 1.19 is close second place. And coming in first place, the moment we've all been waiting for, 1.16, the Nether update. It is amazing. It changed a very needed to be changed biome in the Nether to be so amazing. The first thing they added is, of course, these brand new logs over here. The Warped log and the Crimson log, which also brought with it biomes. In the Warped biome, the Crimson biome, the Basalt, and the Soul Sand Valley, which I think was very needed to have biomes in the Nether instead of just the basic Netherrack Nether that we all knew beforehand. In this chest, of course, we have the new mobs. We have the Piglin, Piglin Brute, and Hoglin. We have the Piglin here, which is really good for speedrunners and normal players alike, because that you can trade with them gold to be able to give you stuff like Ender Pearls. Just so useful. And here we have the Piglin Brute who protects the new structure the Bastion, which is so cool. The Piglin Brute is a really deadly foe and takes so many hits to try and kill that it is really OP. Then also we have after I throw this crossbow away, the Zoglin, which is the, of course, overworld version of the Hoglin. I can't spawn the Hoglin in the overworld, but it is a pretty good mob for of course, the Nether, which I think is just a perfect mob to add to the Crimson biome, which is a very needed to change. Oh, and we also have the Bastion, which is the new structure that I was talking about. That is a really nice place to get gold blocks, diamond armor, and stuff like that. A really, really good structure with the Piglin Brute, and the Piglin, of course, being a part of this Bastion area, which I think is really, really, really good. Then in here we obviously have Pigstep, probably the most famous music disc that everyone loves. Pretty much every major Minecraft fan will know about Pigstep. It is one of the coolest discs out there. And of course, my favorite part of it, the new armor. Everyone was used to diamond armor, of course, being the best, but they added netherite armor, a level above diamonds, which I think was necessary. Everyone was used to diamonds, and now we just got that bit better armor, which I think was really, really cool. It made me look so cool, as you can see here with my diamond sword. I just look that so cool with this on, and it is definitely the coolest armor look out of all of them. I personally, even if it wasn't the best, I would probably still use it. Of course, with the netherite sword here, the netherite axe, pickaxe, shovel, and hoe, all being their unique tools and doing just as good. And I'll put all of this back on the armor stand. And that is number 1. I personally think it's 1.16, and there's many reasons why it can be. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Comment down below what you think the best update was, and I hope you have a great day.
J
M
Gamers.
Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Please subscribe.
I'll blow this up behind me if you subscribe. Have you done it?
Please subscribe. Thank you, guys.
R.I.P. brother.